How are you, Keith?
I'm doing good, Steve. How are you today?
Very good, thanks. Very good. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Steve. So, Steve, Rarities Oxhumed Volume One was out on October 21st. So, would you like to tell me a bit about this compilation of all those old and great, awesome, unreleased songs for me?
Well, I had been over the years. John and I wrote quite a bit of material together. We shared a lot of demos and things, and we recorded a lot of things that didn't get released. So the fans had been asking me, for years, is there anything else? Is there going to be something new? And finally, when I connected with Deko Entertainment, I realized that would be a good home uh, for the material, and we struck up a deal, and that's what led to the releasing of Oxhumed Volume One.
Fantastic, fantastic. And was there any particular selection criteria when behind this?
Um, well, I mean, I love I love all the stuff that we put on there. Um, Probably one of my favorites is "I'll Try Again Today," and I love "Back on the Road." I think that's a pretty good one on there. It's uh, it's a very interesting compilation of different looks at John Entwistle.
Fantastic, fantastic. And by end of October, you put up an amazing video featuring Keith Moon on Boogeyman. So would you like to tell me a bit about this video with this amazing Keith Moon on the video?
Sure. Well, Keith, we were doing a kids show, if you can believe it or not. John, we recorded some demos, and I went to back to the States to try to get a record deal, and wound up getting a deal to do the soundtrack for this television show. So when we had to look for material that was appropriate for the show. You can't, which is why this album exists, because we couldn't use a lot of the things that we had written that wound up on this record, because they weren't suitable for Saturday morning TV. But when we were trading songs, John and I were trading songs back and forth of what we would, what we thought we could use. He played me a demo of Boogeyman, and it was just John's vocal, the bass, and drums. And so the track was wide open, and I was able to really listen to the parts that were on there. And I asked, "Who's playing drums?" And he said, "I don't know." And I said, "It sounds like Keith Moon." And he went, "Oh yeah, it's him." And it was like, well, okay. So there's no guitars on it. There's no backing vocals. There's no harmony, no keyboards, nothing. Just those three tracks. And I said, we should finish it, and we did. He went looking for the multi-track tape, the big 2-inch tape that you used, and he couldn't find it, because that's what we needed to finish the song. And he was leaving the room where he kept all his tapes, and all of a sudden he heard a big bang, and a tape had fallen over, and it was labeled on the wrong side, and it was the tape that he had been looking for well over an hour. So maybe we got a little help, I'm not sure. But you're not leaving me off the album. And just being able to listen to Mooney's tracks, that isolated like that, it was incredible. And so we finished the song, and we wound up using it for the TV show, because it's and we shot the video. I actually directed that video at John's house at the estate, and it's it's just us being, having fun and loving what we do.
Fantastic, fantastic. And talking about the cover art of this album, it's fantastic. The beautiful workout on this artwork. I really love the way it is depicted there. Is there some kind of theme that was put behind this cover art?
Oh yes, yes, yes. When I decided to do a Rarities album, which is, obviously it's all things that no one's ever heard, or that no one's ever heard in this form. I called John's son up, who I've been friendly with, throughout his life, Chris Entwistle. And I said to him, doing a Rarities album, I don't just want to call it Rarities. What do you think we should call it? And without missing a beat, he said Oxhumed. And it was like, how brilliant is that? So we're doing the play on words with John's nickname, the Ox, and exhuming this material. So I thought, well, why not exhume some of it, or oxhume some of his favorite things and hide them throughout the cover? There are little remembrances, things from some of his solo albums, or some things that he loved, or and it was fun, like kind of like an Easter egg hunt, because the real hardcore fans, the people that followed John for his whole career, will get most of it. I don't know if anybody will get all of it, but I think, and I thought it would be fun. I thought it would be fun for people to, talk about back and forth. Oh, did you see the owl, or did you see the skeleton? And I did that, some of that with Chris, because he gave me the insight into some of John's favorite things from, years and years ago. So that was it. It was, John had a very dark sense of humor. He was, he was extremely clever and very dark. So I thought this is appropriate. We'll have a glowing shovel outside of a destroyed Tower Records, with things, piled all over the yard, and remembrances of John's life. Seemed to make sense.
And to celebrate the memory of John Entwistle, do you have a plan to bring some of the closest bands, the Who members, into the scene and have some kind of touring in the future?
To be honest, well, I see some multimedia performance. I don't really see a band, because you can't have a band with John Entwistle. He was irreplaceable, and to even try would be, it would be a fait accompli. It can't be done. He's a one of a kind. But I have thought about doing a multimedia presentation and orchestrating it, because I'm working. One of the things that John left behind was the sketches for a rock opera that he had begun in the 70s. So I have his notes on that. I have a lot of the recorded material. I know the direction of it. And so I thought I might take a stab. Well, I'm taking more than a stab. I'm actually going after it with a very brilliant composer named Keith Crane from New York. And we're trying to see if we can put something worthy together, so that in one form or another would tour, or would, do live performance. But that's a long-term thing. The thing that I'm talking about is like a multimedia performance in smaller, like a off-Broadway type of thing, where I could show clips from the movies and maybe play clips, and maybe I could play along with John under some appropriate situation. It hasn't all materialized, but I don't, like I said, you can't play Entwistle without Entwistle. So as much as I would love to figure out a way to do that, I don't think there's a way to do it respectfully. And it's so something's coming. I just am not sure what it is.
Gotcha. And is there a volume 2 that is coming up?
Volume 2, absolutely. Yeah, volume 2. When I signed on to do this with Deko Entertainment, I made sure that before I started, I had enough material for 2 volumes. And because you don't want volume 2 to be, scraping over the finish line. You really want it to be as good or better than volume 1. So I knew that I had enough studio tracks. I knew I had enough demo material, and I certainly have a wealth of live material to draw from. And, so I imagine there'll be some very interesting stuff on volume 2. There are a couple of things that need to be cleaned up and finished. There are some things that are in the can that are already ready to go. It's coming. It's coming.
Fantastic. And are you currently working on any other bands or projects?
Well, yeah, I'm working on, because I have such a great home with Deko, I'm working on my solo album, And I'm trying to, these are tracks that I recorded over the years. I was in the studio producing recordings with Brian Johnson and Cliff Williams from AC/DC. So I'd like to use, there's about 7 or 8 of those. There's 2 of those that I would love to use. And then did quite a bit of touring and recording with Robin Zander from Cheap Trick. So I love to use some of that stuff. And then my own stuff and the things that I've recorded over the years. It's just picking the right material and having some value to it. And I'm always recording, and I compose for network television as well. So I'm always doing something.
Fantastic. And back in 2007, like you said, you were working with Brian Johnson and Cliff on some music. And is that a one-time project, or there's more coming up with this thing?
Well, I think what we've done, but we haven't, I think we only let one song out, when we did a tour in, I believe it was 2008. And we, just went out to just have a good time. Those guys hadn't played in years. AC/DC hadn't been out in 6 years. And so we recorded some great stuff, and writing that material with Brian was, was a lot of fun. I mean, I didn't know what to expect from Johnson in the studio. I didn't know him, and I really didn't know that much about him. Other than the songs that he wrote, and I don't know what I was expecting, but what I got was the most cooperative, inspiring artist that I've produced in the studio and co-written with. I mean, he was as concerned that I liked what he was doing as he was that I'm getting confused. We were both very aware of each other's contribution and encouraged it. So I started to get lost in the woods there for a minute. But yeah, it was that was a great experience. I don't see us playing together because I think those guys have done their time out on the road, and I'm pretty sure, unless there's another AC/DC tour, which there's always another one, I think that's done. And we have enough material, and it's great material. We wrote just some fantastic songs and recorded them. So if anything comes out of that, that's what it'll be. And I, kind of thinking about putting a compilation of all the things that I've done over the years that didn't get released, including some stuff with John, and there's some cool stuff. So I'm excited about that.
Fantastic. And do you have a planned date to release your solo album?
I'm sorry, do I have a plan? What you broke up?
Release your solo works.
Oh, I would imagine maybe this time next year, fall or something like that. I certainly don't want to compete with the John release, and I believe we're going to let Volume 2 out in the spring. So maybe fall of next year for my stuff. And there's another thing that I did, because you asked about what I'm up to. When the pandemic hit, right, and everybody was out of work, and nobody could work. Everybody started doing Zoom shows and streaming live and playing guitars and singing songs and taking requests. And I wound up doing like a chat, like what we're doing, a chat show. And out of that, I developed this thing where let's just say you were a bass player and I was having you on the show and we were talking. I would tell you that I'm doing this thing called Pass the Peas, which is I go into my recording studio and I put down a drum track and I send that to you. And you, as the bass player, can play anything you want, and then you send it to the next guy. And by the time it comes back around to me, it's finished, but I've never heard any of it until I get all of it. Yeah. So I'm pursuing doing that because it's enabled me. Some of my friends are scattered all over the world, England or on the West Coast or out in Hawaii or wherever. And this is an opportunity and a way for me to make music with those guys, without everybody having to fly halfway around the world. So that's where I'm focusing, is creating with people that I haven't had a chance to work with or haven't worked with in a long time, and that's fun. Steve Stevens, you know Steve from Billy Idol's band. Um, we used to sneak Steve into our gigs when he was 16 years old, and he's remained a friend, and I'm so proud of his success. He did a track. I sent him a drum track, and he sent the whole thing back. He played everything. It was absolutely stunning, and I'm looking forward to letting people hear what everybody did, because it's as close to jamming as we could get, if because we're not together in the same room. But yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And would you like to share some of the great moments that you had with John Entwistle?
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, we we really were uh, good friends. You know, when you make a friend later in your life, you really know what you can bring to the friendship and what you require of the friendship. And there was never any, the who didn't get in the way. Nothing got in the way of us just being friends. And after we realized that we wanted to play together and we enjoyed playing together, we started to communicate a lot. Now, you wouldn't think of John as being somebody that hung on the phone telling stories, but we had that kind of friendship, telling jokes and planning things and doing. John was very funny, and he used to fax me messages, to a fax machine. We didn't have really much of the internet back then, and he would just draw these things and send them. And my fax machine would go off at midnight, which is 5 in the UK, and this crazy thing would come out of it, and always made me laugh. And when we were writing the songs for that one of them wound up on this album, I Wouldn't Sleep With You, he sent me the lyrics via fax, and I changed some of the lyrics, made them a little funnier, and sent them back. And then he changed more of the lyrics, and it just got so absurd. But it was like two kids playing on a fax machine, sending these lyrics, and it was glorious. He was everything that I could ever ask for in a friend. Like the best bass player of all time, that's good. Very wise, a little older than me, 8 years older than me. So, a kind of older brother type of thing, and, very willing to share his insights in the business. And, what the idea was to play music and have fun, which really are the same thing. If you're playing music and you love to do it, you're having fun. And he was always very clever. I remember mixing some of the tracks that wound up on this record, and I was in the control room with Bobby Pridden, and John walked in and he said, "You look troubled." And I said, "Well, I can't decide whether the bass is too loud or not." He said, "Oh, turn it up, then you can be sure." So, and that's I remember one of the things that was real fun. We were out on the road and we were recording every show to release a live record. And we had a 2-week hole right in the middle of the tour. Well, you've got tour buses out, you have 2 tour buses, a truck, the crew, all the hotel, just the whole thing. So we couldn't stop playing, or the whole thing would have fallen apart, and we wouldn't have stayed on top of the performance. You cool off if you don't keep playing. So we told the office to book us anywhere, any place that was near where we were, just book us anywhere. And we played places like Juanita's Cantina and the old post office, and I don't even know some of these places. The bus was bigger than the front of the club. But I remember we played someplace in Dodge City, Kansas, and John was a huge fan and a historian as far as the Old West went. If you were watching a cowboy movie with him and they were using the wrong gun, he would know that gun wasn't invented for 4 more years. And so one of the good things that we did, or fun things, memorable things, is I took him down to Front Street in Dodge City to see all of the, the jail and whatever else was there. And it was really, really cool. And he enjoyed it. It was fun to see him in that kind of a an amusement. You know, I can't picture myself going to Great Adventure or Palisades Park with John. But taking him to see that stuff was a joy because you could see the joy on his face looking at the exhibits. And the other thing, which is out of character for John, is when when the Simpsons had the Who on. Do you remember that when that happened? Well, Matt Groening, the guy who draws the thing, sent everybody in the band a bowling bag, bowling ball, and bowling shoes, right? So John decides that he and Chris, his son, are going to go bowling in Cheltenham, and he gets hooked on it, right? And he calls me up and he says, "Man, when you come over, we got to go bowling." He said, and I said, "How did that start?" I mean, the last thing you ever expect to see in the world is John Entwistle with the spider and the leather jacket throwing a bowling ball, right? So he says, "I'll wait till you see, I got a new ball." And he got a pure crystal clear bowling ball with a skull in the middle of it, right? And I think he bowled a 32 or something like that. But the thing is, he throws the ball down, right? And I go up, I'm just using a house ball. And this little girl who's in the family next door, she's got to be about maybe 9, 8, 9, 10 maybe. She's standing at the ball return, and all of a sudden John's ball comes rolling out and the skull is facing right at her. And she screamed, and it was like, it was, you know, a little pandemonium in the bowling alley. So that's a great memory of John. You know, certainly there are rock and roll memories left and right, but I think bowling ranks high. Yeah.
Fantastic. And do you have any plans to come up with more videos from this Rarities album?
Well, yeah, there's well, certainly, I mean, I have tons of video from the road, but there is one other music video that we did the same in the same stretch that when we did the Boogeyman video, and that song is not on volume 1. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on volume 2, so that video will accompany it. It's a good one. It's a little bit more serious than Boogeyman, but it's a great video, and the performance with the track was sung by our keyboard player, Alan St. John. And it's John, you know, it's all of us just doing what we love to do. So yeah, that'll be coming down the pipe.
Fantastic. And any plans, the first quarter of 2023, do you plan to do some kind of single release?
From the next album, from volume 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine, that's an interesting question. I imagine it would be the song that I'm talking about, When the Sun Comes Up, but I don't know. Because there are a couple of songs that could be a good first single, but I would vote for When the Sun Comes Up. I think that's a great one, and John did the orchestrations on it. It's a fabulous song. So yeah, so that, you know.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that. And Steve, finally, what would be the message that you want to give to your fans around the world?
Well, first of all, you know, to my fans and our fans, I can't do anything without expressing gratitude, because they gave us the careers that we had, no matter what they are, and they laid the groundwork for the work that I'm doing now on John's behalf. So I want them to know that these records, especially the Entwistle records, are done specifically for them. It's more about the appreciation of those people that gave their lives and their ears and their hearts to the music that John created, that we created. And you have nothing without the fans. And I will tell all of his fans that he would have played at the opening of an envelope if you were there. So he loved you all. And that's the big drive behind this record. And I hope you all enjoy it.
Amazing, amazing. And Steve, I want to thank you so much for giving me today this wonderful opportunity to have you on this interview. A real pleasure and honor for me to have you. And thank you so much for all this awesomeness for decades and decades, giving us amazing music and great works throughout these years. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for sharing all these great things you had with John Entwistle over the years. And thank you so much for everything. I'm looking
Oh,
forward to have more interviews in the future with you. Thank you.
I'm at your disposal anytime, Keith. I had a wonderful time. Thanks for getting the word out there, and stay safe. I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Looking forward, Steve. Take care of yourself. Have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.